Hey fellow content creators, this is your boy Kagiso M with another C70 video. Today is the second episode of the Chronicles of the C70 and I'm going to show you how to do a firmware update on the C70 without losing your settings. You do have about 13 customizable buttons and other settings that you might have changed in camera. Then when you do firmware update, you are going to lose that settings. So that means first we're going to save our settings, then do a firmware update, then reload our settings. You can also use this video, watch this video when you have two C70s, then you do settings on one and you copy it to another C70. So it's been powered up. So let me first check if we do have an SD card here. Okay, we do have an SD card. First, you will have to put your SD card on slot B, not slot A, but slot B. Normally, just try to format it. You can use this without formatting it. That is if you have already used it on the C70. Because what I have seen is that if I get this card from another camera, then I put on here, then it wants me to format it. So if it was already in here, there's not really need to format it, but just to be safe, just format it. Then I'm going to put it on slot B. Then I'm going to go on menu and look for the spanner. So let's go to the spanner. There we are on the spanner. Then from the spanner, we're just gonna toggle down to transfer menu. So when you are on transfer menu, that's where you can load or save your settings, your camera settings. So I'm just going to say save because I want to save it. I'm not going to save it on camera because it's going to wipe everything on camera. So I haven't tried this. Why am I saying it's going to wipe this? But to be safe, I'm just going to save it onto the SD card. Okay, so if it doesn't give you an option to save it to the SD card, check that your SD card is on slot B because it doesn't work with slot A. Then, okay. Now that I'm done, I can go back. If you don't want to do a mistake or make a mistake, you can use two SD cards. One, you can save your settings, and the other one, you can save the firmware update from the PC. So I'm just going to use one. The file extensions are different, so it shouldn't really do anything or maybe override. The firmware cannot override the settings because it's different extensions and probably different names. So now, the first thing that I'm going to do after saving that is to check my firmware update. So still when we are on the spanner, which is your settings, I'm going to go to number 9. And from number 9, I'm gonna go right down. So if I click firmware, it's going to show camera. It shows the camera firmware. And when your SD card is on slot A, it's actually going to gray out that camera firmware. So I already have a firmware inside this SD card. I could actually just go on and update, but I'm going to also show you how to download it on PC. So this is where you can see your firmware update. Then you're going to go to your PC, your browser, and on your browser, you're going to go to www.canon-europe.com. I have seen -USA, but I normally use -Europe. Then on here, we go to support. You just hover on it. You don't have to click anything. Then hover on downloads. Then firmware. Click firmware. We get another window. On here we can We can just say C70, and there's EOS C70. Click it. Then you have a couple of things here. All we need is the firmware. It has detected my operating system, that it's Windows 10. But also when you go to firmware, just make sure that this is the latest version. You're going to check the version on your camera and relate it to this version. So if your version is lower, then you need to update it. And also just make sure that there's Windows and there's Mac. So I download the Windows one. You can read through that disclaimer. Download. It's about 60 megabytes. Yeah, 60.6. All right. So we have a zip file, and we cannot use the zip file on the camera. If I click it, then I double click the folder. These are your manuals. It sort of gives you the procedure in different languages. There's an English one there. Then this is the file that I'm looking for. I've inserted the SD card, and there it is. If I open it, this is the older one that I copied, so I can delete this. Then I will drag this onto the root folder. The root folder meaning I'm not going to put it in any folder inside the SD card. So it's just going to be on the SD card and not behind any folder. Then that is that. I can close that. I can close that. Then you can eject it. I normally just take it out. I never had an issue. So I'm going to do the same. When I open the door, you can actually see that it grays out everything on here. So it means I can actually just pop my SD card into slot B, close it, and here we are. So it does recognize that the SD card has a firmware update. Myself, they are the same because my camera has been updated. So if I go and try to update, it says firmware already up to date, version 1.0.2.1. So I'm just going to click OK. I can go out of the menu. So the next thing after firmware update is to reload the settings. My settings didn't change, but it is going to reload that file. So I'm just going to, let me cancel. Menu, then go to the spanner. This is where I am, here on the spanner. Then number 2. Okay. Then now I'm going to load. So it's asking from camera, from SD card. In fact, from camera is grayed out, then from SD card. Now we wait. It's not going to change anything on my settings because they are exactly how they were. And that is that. It's going to restart, just leave it, and it will switch itself on. So there you are. If I click that so that the lens doesn't autofocus. So that is that. That is how you format or you do a firmware update on your Canon C70 without losing your settings. I actually forget one important thing. I will also put sort of a title in the beginning of the video. You have to make sure that you have enough battery. So your battery, my battery, what is it showing? It's showing about 3 bars. It's enough. At least if it's showing about 2 bars and you know it's a good battery. I'm using the original and it's new. With 2 bars, it will actually work. Even though Canon, they say, or they recommend that you use a full battery or hook it to the power supply. I would rather put the battery and hook it to the power supply than using the power supply alone. Simply because if the power goes off, then what? So guys, that is it. This is the chronicles of the C70, and that was how you format or how you update your firmware on the C70 without losing your settings. I'm Kagiso M. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I'm out of here.